Welcome to Geek on Film with your hosts, Robbie Holmes and John Hosch. Welcome to episode 29 of Geek on Film. I'm Robbie.
Hey, I'm John, guys. What's up?
Today is a magical week for not just our main review, but your boy here spent an awful lot of time with Channing Tatum's abs. Let me tell you, it's been a week. Yeah, it's exciting to get together and chat about a lot of stuff that's going on. I was able to do a little bit of catch up for my Oscars prep, and boy, Last of Us destroyed us. I can't wait to talk about it, but we wanted to remind everybody we're sort of everywhere and online. Like, you're listening to us right now. Please connect with us wherever you can. We're on Twitter at geekonfilm.com. We're on Instagram at geekonfilm.com. We have geekonfilm.com where we have our written reviews, and everything is linked to from there. So it's like the hub for all things geeky. But John wanted to give a shout out to one of our fans.
Yeah, so like again, wherever you listen to us, like if you could review, like rate us, and then write a review. It's really helpful to like kind of push us into the algorithm and everything like that. And we just wanted to give a special shout out to Ben, who wrote a really nice review for us. He said, "Great, insightful conversations, 5 stars." He says, "I've listened to most of the episodes so far and has become a go-to podcast for me. The conversational style keeps it going. The reviews and analysis are insightful to get me to look at things in some of the films that I wouldn't have otherwise considered. I also appreciate the mixing in of discussions of TV shows." Thanks very much, Ben. We appreciate your review. And, again, wherever you listen to us, if you could just kind of write a really quick review about what you think and give us a couple stars, maybe 5, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's really helpful to us. We really want to shape this to be the best podcast we can for you folks, and we're really glad to have you along for the ride. So let's jump into. We only have one television show to talk about this week, and boy, is it a lot of television show.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about The Last of Us. We're going to discuss episodes 4 and 5. So if you're not caught up, you might want to take a breath. You may want to skip for about 5 minutes. But we're gonna talk about it because this show is really amazing. So coming out of episode 3, where we met our friends Nick Offerman and Marty Bartlett, we spend an awful lot of time getting to know our friends in Kansas City. So John, would you like to give us a little bit of a rundown of episode 4 and then into where we go with episode 5?
Yeah. So in episode 4, we're back on the road. With Joel and Ellie, and they kind of get into Kansas City and they kind of get stuck. They don't know how to get around it. Like all the tunnels and highways seem to be blocked. So they they start driving around the city trying to figure it out. Yep. And unfortunately, they get ambushed, and then we're introduced to a new faction of people who have overtaken the Fedra or the government, and they're kind of living in Kansas City. And
I think I love the setup of like the road to go around the city is blocked, right? If you spent any time driving around in America, right, you know that there are usually an even numbered highway and an odd numbered highway. One goes through the city, one goes around the city. So it's just an interesting play on like America, right? Like once you get to this point where they're like, we could go this way, and then it's blocked off by cars and stuff like that. He's like, well, we can go around this and head into town. So it reminded me so much of like just my time driving through America at large, where there's like the fast path that you can go around the city and not deal with anything that's going on. But when you get to KC, right, we're talking about Kansas City here, it's a QZ, it's a quarantine zone. So the city in and of itself is a place where Fedra had a base and was kind of notorious for. I think there was a lot of rumors about Kansas City and the QZ there. So you come into it and I haven't played this portion of the game. I have seen the comparison videos. It's pretty amazing that they were able to pull direct images, almost like they are taken from the game into this sequence. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. And we meet Kathleen, played by Melody Linsky, who I've seen her in a bunch of other things, and she's always
Oh,
fantastic.
she's unbelievable.
She is like the leader of this resistance, um, and she's searching for someone named Henry, who we don't meet in episode 4. And also, I want to point out her kind of like right hand man, Perry, played by Jeffrey Pierce. The cool thing about Jeffrey Pierce is he was actually an actor in the video game, so I think that's kind of cool that.
I think he was the
Um,
voice of Tommy, if I remember correctly.
yes, and I believe he did the performance capture. Usually, that's how they did it for those
That's
games.
awesome.
So he probably did the performance capture for him as well. So I think it's really cool that, um, among all the many Easter eggs that I don't know about, because I haven't played the game all the way through, I think it's really cool that they've included some of the actors as well. It would be very cool maybe to see some of the other actors make appearances. But yeah, I think that the thing that was really interesting, I think, in this episode is when we're meeting Kathleen. She's very unassuming, I think, and you know there were social media comments about body image things and all this stuff, and that was quickly squashed, specifically by Melanie
Yeah.
Linsky. Was like, I don't need muscles. I'm smart, and I have henchmen for that. That's their job. So shut the f up. And I think that was really great that she kind
Well,
of.
and I think the way she carries herself, right, and you can see the way the other the people who are part of her sort of militia look
Mhm.
to her, right? Like
Yeah.
it's 100% believable, right?
Oh,
Like she obviously understands how to manipulate the world around her and the people who are, but like it's not manipulation. They believe in her, right?
yeah.
Like Perry obviously believes she has the ability to lead this group of people. You know?
Yeah. She doesn't question her. She doesn't question any of her motives or anything like that. She's just like she's a badass, and it's pretty fantastic. Uh, and that kind of segues. So Joel and Ellie they've now gotten on Kathleen's radar because they got ambushed. Deaths happened, and the crazy thing is, like, Ellie was about to kill someone, to save Joel. Um, so it's kind of it's very that's a very interesting uh, moment in the show, I think. But because this happened, now Kathleen is like, there are outsiders in the city. We have to go. We have to kill them. Um, and which kind of segues us into the end of episode 4. The beginning of episode 5 is where Joel and Ellie are kind of hiding out high in a high rise to kind of see where they are in the city, and they stumble across this person Henry that Kathleen's looking for, um, with his brother Sam, which
Yeah.
segues into episode 5.
I think one, a couple little small pieces here that I thought were interesting. Right, in the episode before, we saw Joel teaching Ellie how to hold a gun and how to deal with having a gun. And once they get jumped and ambushed in the city, Joel takes lead as usual, kills at least one person from what he thinks is Fedra at the time. Turns out it's not, right? But it's just people coming at him. My assumption is that he thinks this is still probably Fedra territory,
Mhm.
and then he gets jumped individually and he's losing a fight, and he had Ellie climb through a hole in the wall to get away and hide, and she comes back through and has that gun from Frank and shoots the man in the lower back,
Yeah,
to get him off of Joel, and then Joel kills the man after he makes Ellie leave. But you see a moment where she's like shaken that she's done this. She climbs back through the hole, and her entire posture changes. Like she like wipes away tears, or sort of that, whether it happens in the episode or the feeling of it. But you see a stark change happen in her. Like she's shaken, and then she's pulling it back together. And Joel kills that man with his knife, saving bullets, but also it's an interesting choice to not have him shoot the man.
mhm,
Um, but I think that's really interesting. And then one thing I wanted to point to is at the end of the episode, they make their way into this high rise, and Joel puts down glass on the floor, because it should make some noise and wake them up, right, if somebody comes in. But Ellie had earlier commented on the fact that his hearing is bad, and he's like, yeah, it's probably from all the shooting of guns.
Mhm.
And they are overtaken while they're sleeping by Sam and Henry, because Joel's an older gentleman who can't hear as well, in my opinion. So like a little bit of this is Joel being Joel, but like Joel's broken down. He can't. He talks about the fact that his knees are shot, right? Like I think there's a really nice aspect of the character and the portrayal of the character that you see. He's not Superman.
Yeah. I mean,
He's doing the best he can, you know.
I think something interesting that I kind of saw, um, this kind of I kind of had this realization at the end of episode 5, but it definitely pertains to previous episodes and this episode. I was like, I wonder if Pedro Pascal, in particular, but this character, and I was kind of like, oh well, Viggo Mortensen, blah blah blah, in the road, and all these other things. But like, I wonder if this is kind of the pendulum swinging back in the other direction, because it's like in the '80s it was like Arnold and Sly Stallone and like like all these like jacked, greased up action heroes, and then it kind of flung back with like um, Die Hard and like Bruce Willis kind of being like the everyman, and prior to Stallone and Schwarzenegger, it was like Clint Eastwood and like like more of the westerns and stuff. So it's like always a pendulum
Yeah,
swinging back and forth. It's like who do we look to for these action things? And now it's like we've just been inundated with like uh superheroes
yeah,
for like a decade. God, maybe even longer. So I'm wondering, I'm like, is this the pendulum swinging back? And maybe, I mean, I would totally welcome it. I think just because I've talked in other episodes where I've had a bit of superhero fatigue.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I don't know. That was that I thought by the end of the fifth episode.
I think what really impressed me is the poise in the episodes, right? I think there's the ability to let the characters have their moment, because even in the middle of all the madness, they are human. Ellie
Mm,
continues to like make pun jokes and finally breaks Joel with a joke about diarrhea, like it's
mm,
hereditary because it's in your genes, and he like there's a genuine laugh that Pedro Pascal has like as Joel, where
mm,
he's like stupid, like and like then they get like the giggles, like there's
yeah.
a moment where you feel like the connection, the familial connection, like you like in his case, like probably thinking back about his daughter, like she's filling this space of like a teenage girl like his daughter would have been to him,
Mm, yeah.
and there's an ease between the two of them in the way that they interact. Like he still puts up walls constantly, but like those moments you can see the facade cracking a little bit,
Mm,
and and how powerful that is to the characters, but to us as the audience, right? Like we get to be brought into this relationship a little bit more.
yeah.
And I love the fact that like when we finally meet Sam and Henry, Sam has what looks like a domino mask painted on his face.
Mm,
Um, and then in episode 5, we get to know Henry and Sam. So you spend, like in episode 3, where we got to meet Bill and Frank, you spend an entire episode basically on the 10 days before Joel and Ellie are ambushed into town. So it's from the Fedra like riots to taking over the city, and you see how brutal that is. That the non Fedra folks become as bad or worse than
it's
Fedra.
brutal. It's
It's a
like
pretty brutal sequence, like indiscriminately, just like stripping people, hanging, like shooting
like
in the head.
I don't it gave me what are those movies that it gave me like The Purge vibes.
It did feel a lot like The Purge. You're right,
Yeah.
yeah. But like with a full on, like there's no nod towards this being a one night thing or that it's
Mm,
like a dark comedy,
yeah.
or there was no levity. This was like as serious as it gets.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was and pretty quickly you come across you know watching Catherine have to figure out Kathleen, that she wants to continue to go after Henry. So
Mhm.
even on night 1 of their like freedom from Fedra, she continues to chase Henry,
Yeah, she's laser
because
focused, yeah.
yeah, go for it.
I was just saying she's got a laser focus 'cause so, what happened, I mean, and, again, spoilers, I guess,
Yeah, we're still
um,
going. Yeah,
yeah,
if you tune back in, we're continuing to spoil this
yeah,
episode.
so Henry had to choose between saving his own brother or or I guess saving Kathleen's brother, and he chose to kill Kathleen's brother, and she takes that very personally and is very hurt and wants revenge. So that's why she is coming after Henry and trying to find him. Henry was
But
also Henry
But what
also
I love is the Henry side of it, right? Like when he talks to Joel, he
Mhm.
says like, "This is a man I believed in, and I
Right.
had a choice, right? I could either save my brother who has it turns out he had leukemia, but like the
Mhm.
only people that had those drugs that might help him were Fedra. So he was part of the rebellion,
Yeah.
which was being led by Kathleen's brother.
Mhm.
But like he discusses it as like a complete failure, right? Like he's like, I was, it's the epitome of rock in a hard place. He's like, I either let my brother die or turn in the man that I think is the greatest man in our entire city, right? Like
Yeah.
there was this like weight on poor Henry, the whole like his entire world is. But when they finally make it to their hiding spot, right, where all the paintings are on the walls and all, like what's amazing is he looks out the window. I don't know if you caught this, but he looks out the window from up there when he's trying to figure out what's going on in the patterns,
Mhm.
and the awning across the street from them is reflected in the glass, and it is a red bar that goes across Henry's face
Mm.
like he's wearing a domino mask.
That's cool. Yeah,
There's some like beautiful visuals and like production design, like it's unbelievable.
yeah. Um, yeah, and, if you stick around past the credits, the great thing about HBO shows is they always kind of do these behind the episode things,
Yeah.
the writer talks about how the relationship between Henry and Sam it's a it's the same kind of relationship that Joel and Ellie are forming, but if it had gone a different way, and it's interesting. It's kind of interesting to kind of have these like two pairs meet up, and I thought that this episode 5 is like for me kind of the first time that I really, really started to warm up to Ellie because I think it's the first time that Ellie has truly, um, like let her walls down and her interactions with Sam, who is also like a fellow kid, fellow
Yeah.
child, is like it's just like really endearing and really great to see kind of their interactions and
Well, and one nice change from the game that just so happened to work out is that Sam is deaf.
mhm,
And when they initially pitched Neil Druckmann on the idea of like Sam being deaf, he was like, "God, it's such a great idea." And like, I'm so mad I didn't think of it because it's another reason why Sam is reliant on Henry
yeah,
because not everybody can speak to him.
mhm,
So like, it's just another lens of what Henry means to Sam,
yeah,
and why he feels so protective of Sam, not only his brother, but also is like his connection to the world. And
yeah,
Neil Druckmann was just like brilliant, like no notes, right? Like
yeah,
I love when the creator of a show is just like or a game, and they're like, "You did better than I did when I was
sure,
creating this."
yeah,
And it really is. But what's great is like when you see the interactions between Ellie and Sam, there's like a genuine affection for their and honest like openness of kids communicating, but
mm,
she's like slowly learning ASL to be able to communicate with him.
mhm.
And he has a little board where he can write like
I
a
used to have one of
stencil.
those, yeah,
Yeah, where you write and you basically peel up the paper and it like vanishes. But what's cool is you can see this like want to have her own connection,
mhm,
and she's going to communicate with Sam no matter what it takes.
yeah,
But like an honest, like I'm excited. There's somebody I can take care of is really what it felt like. Like
mm,
there's somebody like me, but like I have somebody to be a part of my family, but also somebody who's a little bit younger. There's all these emotions in her interactions with Sam that feel like protective and familial and excited to have another kid around. Like I think you're right. Like Ellie as a character finally gets a chance to like open up a little bit in this episode, and we
yeah.
get that like we understand more about like who she is as a person.
Yeah, and something about Kansas City is like everyone says like, well, there's no infected here, and that's because the Fedra kind of pushed everyone who was infected underground,
Yep.
and they haven't been around for quite some time now. And apparently, a couple years ago, they were all eradicated. But we quickly learn by the end of the episode that that is not the case.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not. The interesting thing is the level up that we have in this episode is, yes, we have the infected. Yes, we have clickers, but now we've got the bloaters, I think they're called, which is
Yeah.
like they are kind of like the next evolution of people who are infected
Yeah.
past clickers, and they're just like hulking aggro monsters. They're like the most monstery monster that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and the science behind it is it's been like they have been infected for 3 to 5 years. Their entire body is basically fungus,
Mm,
covered in fungus at this point. So they're bloated because they've gotten larger. So that's their nickname is this bloater idea. But I don't know if I'm sure you saw it, but like it's practical. The
mhm,
bloater is actually like it's a physical suit
mhm.
that a person is doing. So it's not effects,
Yeah,
and I love that. And you see that like when the bloaters are one of the things about the bloaters is that they are like they're not like mindless, but they're hulking is the right way to put it. They're like throwing people around and like ripping people in half.
yeah.
Um,
It's less that they want to propagate or procreate or whatever. They're not trying to spread anything. They're like, I'm big and angry, and I'm going to destroy.
right.
Versus like, I want to eat and spread more fungus.
Yeah, they're like the tank that you throw into the middle, right? Like
Mm,
it's unbelievable. One other shout out is the little girl clicker that takes out Kathleen is unbelievable. Like the physicality that's played there,
yeah,
right?
she's definitely a contortionist. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I really loved about it is when it was I listened to a podcast talking about it. It was basically this is one of those times where you can see that the fungus doesn't understand how humans move,
Mm,
right? They just use what's available to them.
mm,
So there's a really like creepy and well done like sequence inside of a car and then like flipping around and it's I think it's all practical. Like
mm,
and that's pretty unbelievable. I think that's the thing that's been really cool is so much of this feels real because they actually create the clickers, right? Like it's not effects. It is
mm.
them walking through. It's an actor playing the clicker. And in this case, it's a little girl who is, flying through the air, landing on Kathleen,
Yeah.
There's one other like quick character note that I really liked here is they get through the tunnels. There's a whole sequence in the tunnels which we can skip over. It's important in the game, and I think that's one of the reasons it's there. Is there's a whole
Mhm.
sequence that takes place. They zoom in at one point on a drawing on the wall, and those are characters from the game that we
Mm.
don't spend any time with.
Yeah.
But they get through by going through these maintenance tunnels from one section to the other from what a builder built of these two communities and they come out the other side and as they come out the other side they're supposed to basically go over to the end of this compound and then up and over a hill and they can basically go across a bridge
Yeah.
and Kathleen has put someone in a building at the end with a sniper rifle. So this is, I think, directly lifted out of the video game.
It
But
seems very video game like, but not in a bad way.
no, but what's amazing is you get that moment where Joel says, like, stay, do you trust me? Stay here. And then he's like, I'll go take care of this. And it's
Mhm,
so calm, right? He like knows the guy or whoever's shooting the gun doesn't really have control over it. And
mhm.
he even makes the joke that he's going to run out of ammo, right?
Yeah.
So like he makes his way around to the building and then upstairs and he comes into the room where the person's in their sniper nest and he says like, don't do it,
Yeah.
right? Like just give me your gun and wait in this room for 2 hours and everything will be fine. And of course the guy goes to shoot him and you just hear a single gunshot and it's this super sad moment of Joel like I don't want to kill you, like it
Tired of
just
killing
doesn't
people.
have to happen,
Yeah.
right? Like and it's so sad because Joel knows he has the upper hand, right? Like this guy doesn't realize it's the like Anakin I have the high ground moment, right? Like Joel knows it's inevitable, right? Like there's no way this person can kill me, and he just wants to give him the option to not die.
Yeah.
And it's such a great little character beat, because right after that you have the explosion, like Kathleen and all of her people start arriving. Joel now has the sniper rifle, starts picking people off, and then the giant explosion of infected come out of the ground, right?
Yeah.
And what you get is this like controlled chaos of Joel just like picking off infected, picking off humans, but like it's so different than what you just saw 3 minutes ago when he told
Yeah.
the guy like, please, like he's now back in like Joel as protector mode. But there's that moment of like humanity where you're like, man, come on, like,
Yeah.
and I just love that little beat there that gave us a little bit more to cat, because Joel admits like he's done the same kind of thing that happened to them when they entered Kansas City. He's like, you do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Like, so I love the vacillating between where Joel's morality actually lands
Yeah.
and where he is today compared to where he was, right? Like he's, I think, growing because of his time with Ellie,
Hmm.
and feeling like he has to take care of someone.
Yeah. And uh that's not even the end of the episode. I don't
No,
know if we should go any further past, but I don't know if you want to, but I feel
no,
like
I think it's one of the most amazing sequences I've seen in a while,
yeah.
and I think it's just sort of just emotionally destructive. So, yeah, we've made it through. I think the things that are important about this episode.
Well,
You should watch it.
I mean, yeah, and like what we're not talking about after this big infected attack is heart-wrenching.
Yeah,
All I will say is don't look at the IMDb actor breakdown, because the clues of who makes it out alive is in the episode count of how many episodes each actor does. I think
I
that's a
really wish they would remove that and make that something that you can click on to show.
it is a bit of a spoiler
Yeah.
when you see that. So I'm trying not to look at the rest of them.
Yeah, I am staying far away from the IMDb episode listings.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's jump over to some films because we got a bunch to cover. So this week I finally jumped in and saw Missing. I had never seen Searching, which
Mhm.
is this anthology series that seems to be quickly blossoming into a universe full of people. I believe the first film's director of photography is actually the director of this film. So I think they're growing the stable of people that are making these movies, and they're
Mm.
also like, just a quick note. So I saw Missing. It's now in its like third week, and it still made another $2.6 million according to Box Office Mojo this week, and
Okay.
which makes it $26 million against a $7 million budget. So these movies are making money. They're like not printing money, but they're making money for Sony Pictures. So if they can get this kind of return on these movies, I think they will keep making them. I think the other thing that's nice to call out here is this is just a clever use of technology.
Yeah.
I wish I had seen Searching before this. I will go back and watch it, but I'm really impressed with the understanding of the ubiquity of technology and how it is part of our lives.
Yeah.
And this movie absolutely positively leverages how your average teenager is in front of a screen at all times of their life, and then uses the cameras from those screens as the way to tell the story. And none of it felt forced, which was
Mm.
impressive to me. Like, so the story is that like there's the movie opens with a couple, the father and a daughter, and that father, we were told, dies pretty soon after this of brain cancer, and we smash cut to that little girl grown up who's like 18 now, and her mother's about to go on vacation to Colombia. But what I really like about this is like, there's a familiarity with the frustration of being a teenager. She's super annoyed with her mom all the time. Like they capture the like tropes without making them feel like tropes. I feel like this is a real relationship. Also, the casting is kind of perfect. Boy, the mother and daughter look like they could be mother and daughter. It's really impressive. Nina Long as Grace and Storm Reed as June are they are so, their faces are so similar. They have so much energy that feels matching.
Mm.
It's so impressive. But I won't get too far into the actual story. I think the bigger one here is this movie. It cooks, man. It's a fast moving, clever use of technology, clever use of storytelling, leveraging smartly using any technology that exists. So at one point they're trying to figure something out and they use like tourist cameras in Colombia and
Hmm.
like going back to like just smart like things that like if you really took a step back and thought about it like we're constantly being surveilled and we don't realize like and not making it a creepy like you're being surveilled movie but like trying to figure out a mystery and how many times a day you walk past a public camera that you may you like
Yeah.
it's just really unbelievable how well this is done. And I think there's a really beautiful balancing act between some of the adults in the movie and Storm Reed's June. She has these like relationships that feel realistic and not forced. She
Mm.
ends up utilizing somebody like a TaskRabbit to go to the resort, and he's fantastic. And there's a familiarity that Javi, who's played by Joaquin Diamalda, Media, like you'll recognize him, but he has a son about her age, so there's like this like instant connection, and I think no, it doesn't feel cheap. It feels
Mm.
like shorthand, which is the best use of tropes in my opinion, right? Like he puts up with her being sort of a bratty teenager because he has a bratty teenager, right? Like and can see the like affection that he has for his son even though he's estranged from him, it's just really smart. I really love the movie. It's a pretty solid 3.5 star film in my opinion. But when we joke about like the mid budget adult cinema, this is sort of a modern take on that. And I really want to support these types of films. Like if this goes on as an anthology and there's more of these, I'm super looking forward to them because they bring in really great character actors to play all these roles. And because they're not like super high end or they're shooting them quickly and a lot of it can be done remotely, I think they can get better character actors than they would be able to get for the budget normally. And they're doing really well. I think domestically, they're making money, right?
Mm.
Like, 3 times your budget is kind of what you're looking for. And they're already over that, and that's without it going to like VOD. It's without any physical media. This could close out closer to $40 million. Like that's a win, right? Like this is a movie that's going to make money for everybody involved.
Mm.
And I just think that we should be supporting these types of films. And honestly, if we had timed this right, this could have been one of our main reviews. It's a clever film, and it's very close to the end of its life cycle in the theater. You should see it in a theater. It's cool to see small screens on a big screen. I think there's something about like having this giant rendition of what feels like what is FaceTime
Right.
feels overwhelming on a large screen because you don't realize just how much of your face is in the camera. But that's part of what makes this work, right? Like these characters are sort of stripped down and vulnerable in front of these cameras. So just really clever. I think FaceTime and use of Ring cameras and like just all of it is really well done. It's a win all the way down, and I look forward to more of these. To be honest,
Cool. Yeah, I saw Searching and I really enjoyed it in the theater. So
I,
I'm
I
very.
was I was looking to watch it, but it's only VOD right now, so I had so much to catch up on. I think if I don't see it sometime soon, I will just VOD it and rent it for sure.
Mm. Um, I wanted to talk about. Well, first and foremost, I want to talk about Tubi. We should be sponsored by Tubi first and foremost.
Tubi's
Um,
they had a great ad on the Super Bowl last night, which got a lot of people who had the remote control in their hand in trouble. So in the middle of the actual Super Bowl, they had like a
mm,
30-second ad, which was the two commentators from the Super Bowl talking, and then it basically hit like the apps button and it went to Tubi while they were talking, and then they
really?
started Tubi, and it was like, and literally, like I saw a whole bunch of people on Twitter being like, my dad got yelled at by the entire group of people watching the movie, watching the Super Bowl. It was a really funny ad,
That's
and
awesome.
I think it's super cool. They're calling this fast television, I think is what it's being shorthanded to. This like advertising based ecosystem, and Tubi is really. So I would love to hear your spiel and why you're excited by Tubi.
Um, I am blown away by their library of things that are available. So um, the reason I'm really into Tubi right now is I just noticed that a good friend of mine, Jason Baker. He's an artist up in Pittsburgh. He directed a documentary called Smoke and Mirrors: The Story of Tom Savini, who he works with very closely. And he mentioned that his documentary was available on Tubi. So I checked it out and I was like, good God, there's so much on Tubi, especially of the stuff that I really enjoy. But there's a lot of like documentaries that of like niche topics. There's a lot of horror and sci-fi things from all different levels of super B to really high end stuff, and some stuff that's actually hard to find on other avenues of streaming services. Yeah, you got to watch a couple commercials, but that's nothing new for me because I don't pay to have commercials taken out from Hulu, so I'm used to commercials. I think they're fine. Like they're also ways to support my fellow actors who are in those commercials, so it's all good. So yeah, I'm really into Tubi. I
So
found a couple.
I really stumbled into Tubi because of Sean Fennessy and
Mm,
the Big Picture podcast, and Chris Ryan. They love like weird esoteric horror films. And a
sure.
lot of times Tubi is the only place that has these films from the 60s that
Hmm.
like never got a DVD release. So what's amazing is Tubi is buying up these like or getting access to these libraries and sort of sometimes being the only distributor for a film that something's had for 40 years.
Yeah, like
Um,
Shout Factory is on Tubi. Shout Factory TV is on Tubi. There's a lot of things that I was surprised that was actually on there. So that's yeah, totally.
cool. So
Um,
do
yeah.
you want to
So
talk through the documentary a little?
yeah. So Smoke and Mirrors is the story of Tom. So for people who don't know who Tom Savini is, I'm sure you actually do know who Tom Savini is. First and foremost, he is definitely a Renaissance man. He's an actor, a stunt man, a makeup artist, a director, a theater actor as well. And he's just had a really, really incredible story. He was born and raised in Pittsburgh, PA. He still lives in Pittsburgh, PA, and has always worked out of Pittsburgh, PA, which I think is very, very cool. Um, and he is a Vietnam veteran. He has a special effects and makeup school that he created um, for like film makeup effects in Pittsburgh, which I think is fantastic. But his story is just really interesting. He did a lot of the zombie practical effects and a lot of the um, kind of mutilations and things like that in a lot of the horror movies that you would know. He was Sex Machine and From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a great role and a really fun movie. But it was just very cool. I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person, and he's just a very nice, very kind of soft-spoken kind of guy. But he's done such incredible work. And to hear him talk about his time in Vietnam and how that changed him, and then how movies kind of like reignited like him as a human being because of the terrible things he saw in Vietnam, um and also his love for theater. That's something that I could really latch on to, and you know uh just yeah, it was just really it's a fantastic documentary. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 remake of the classic horror movie, because he directed it. He is, he has worked closely with George Romero on most of George Romero's zombie films, but this was his time to direct it, and he doesn't speak very kindly of it because he didn't have the greatest of experiences because George Romero wasn't available a lot of the times, and the studio was kind of breathing down Tom Savini's neck, and he had to edit a lot of his stuff out. there's a Blu-ray version of the film I really want to look for where Tom Savini does an audio commentary where he talks about it. But I think that the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead is incredible. I think it's really wonderfully shot. I think the makeup and the effects are fantastic. Um, they cast Tony Todd in the lead role, and he is a horror icon. He played Candyman as well. And then the actress who plays Barbara, Patricia Tallman, she's very much like Alice Ripley, like a Sigourney Weaver, like badass, um, female lead who just like you put a shotgun in her hand, she gets those head kills. Um, and I think zombie movies have like gone in a certain direction, and you've got like zombie Nazis in the Arctic, blah blah blah. But then these original kind of zombie movies had something to say, and they were a critique on society. And this one does not pull its punches either. Just like the original Night of the Living Dead, the ending to this is very disturbing and unexpected. And again, it's like not necessarily the ending that Tom Savini wanted, but it's still really great in my opinion. And
Yeah.
he talks about the ending he wanted in the documentary too, and kind of shows the storyboards and stuff. So it's very cool. I definitely think that watching these together is a great evening of uh, enjoying and celebrating a filmmaker that deserves to be celebrated. He doesn't do a lot of like makeup effects or special effects um, now, because it's like it takes a lot of toll, and he talks about how his hands are like really tired and stuff. But also the dude still has like this. The dude is still jacked. If you follow him on Instagram, he's got a six pack. He's got that like older dad, jacked dad bod vibe. But he
That's
still is a consultant, and like besides all the amazing things that he's worked on, him and my buddy Jason Baker, they've done some incredible things for WWE. Like all the masks that WWE puts out go through Tom Savini and Jason Baker. The
wow.
stuff for like Fiend has all been made through them. Triple H's kind of skull crown thing for one of the WrestleManias has gone through them.
Yeah.
They kind of have their hands in everything, and they're a pretty great bunch of people up there in Pittsburgh. I gotta say.
That's awesome. Cool way to shine a spotlight on cool people that people may not have heard of before. That's really great. I want to shine a spotlight on a film that I don't know how it missed my radar. Chronicle is a 2012 film that has it's sort of a found footage superhero movie,
Mm.
written by Max Landis, directed by Josh Trank. If you've heard that name before, it's because Josh Trank went on to direct
The
Fantastic Four film that didn't do very well. But in this film, you have someone we were talking about recently, Dane DeHaan,
mm,
in sort of the lead role. It's three friends. Dane DeHaan is Andrew, Alex Russell is Matt, and then Michael B. Jordan is Steve.
mhm.
Um, it's a really surprisingly good film. I was really blown away by what I saw. So I've been hearing about this film so much, and so many people have told me I should watch it that I bought it on Blu-ray, and then I think I went to a used Blu-ray store and bought it again. So I have two copies
By
of the director's
accident, or
cut
you?
by accident. Yeah, literally in my drawer right now is the director's cut times two.
Wow.
It's really fantastic. I think what you open with is the you get a very quick montage of Andrew, played by Dane DeHaan, being this kid who picks up a camera to sort of document his world, and he documents it all: the good, the bad. His mother's sick, his father's abusive, he's picked on at school, like all these things. And then Matt, who's played by Alex, is his cousin and sort of his only connection to the real world outside of his family. And then Steve, played by Michael B. Jordan, is the cool kid who is going to go on to either be a politician or used car salesman. He's going to be successful. Everybody loves him. It's kind of perfect casting. And what they do is they Matt and Steve find a hole that is making a weird noise, and they take Andrew there, and then they go into this hole. And they find what looks like it might be a spacecraft or something like that,
Mhm.
and they are affected by whatever it is. They bloody noses. They all come out sort of woozy. They've got the camera with them the whole time. And then pretty quickly, it turns out that they now have telekinesis and they have all kinds of stuff going on. I I don't want to go past sort of the premise of the movie here because I do think there's some really amazing unfolding. I just think it's really clever use of what I think is an early film with drones and drone cameras because Andrew constantly levitates his camera behind him. So the found footage aspect is it's not from his perspective. A lot of times it is Andrew controlling this camera. So you get the world around him. Sometimes it's third person, which feels like a video game, right? Sometimes it's first person. But I just love the conceit that it becomes second nature for him to just levitate the camera next to him. And he obviously becomes the one who has a better grip and handle on their powers, and it seems as though the more you use the powers, the more strong you get with those powers.
Mhm.
Is what, and so because he's constantly utilizing it to levitate this camera, he inherently gets to be better with his powers.
Right.
There's some really awesome uses of like effects. At one point, they're trying to show how much Andrew is grown in his powers, and like Matt and Steve are trying to levitate like Legos, and Andrew puts together like a pyramid of Legos with and like it looks like somebody spent like 12 hours putting together a Lego machine, like a Lego diorama. It's just so cool, the use cases and how they show the powers. I don't think every effect works 100% and looks a little dated, but when it comes down to it, the things they do are so cool. Like Steve is playful with his powers. Like a woman parks her car and they're just giggling and being kids, and he just pushes her car from one spot to another in a parking lot. And then they get like the giggles because she comes out and they're like, "Yeah, it's not there. Where's your car?" And it's really funny. Like there's a playful nature of Steve's use of the powers. They eventually learn how to use them to levitate themselves. They use telekinesis, but I think there's so many cool aspects of this movie. And we were talking about Dane DeHaan in Valerian, and I feel like this is a good use of him, right? Playing sort of the outcasty kid, angst-filled outcasty kid. He's really good in this film, which is why I could see him getting cast in other things.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, to my knowledge, or at least as much as I know of Dane DeHaan, I think this was the movie that kind of put him on the map. So,
Yeah. I would suggest it if you haven't seen it before. It's pretty amazing. The next time I see you in person, I will hand you a Blu-ray copy, and I would hand it to almost anybody. I think this is a film that plays really well in the idea of found footage movies. It plays really well in this sort of super powered and superhero style movie. And I just think there's some it goes so much further than I expected this little film to do.
mm,
It's unbelievable where it ends. I was not expecting it to get as big as it did.
yeah. I think if you like Cloverfield, the first Cloverfield, you'd enjoy this movie also.
Yeah,
Kind of.
I think it maybe even like more. It's a bigger story than Cloverfield, even though Cloverfield is a big story. It feels like the way this is shot, it almost feels like it's a larger budget, but I'm not convinced. I don't know how they pulled this movie off
Well,
for what it cost.
it's because they filmed it in South Africa, so
Oh, okay,
that takes the budget down way down.
yeah.
So yeah,
It's
yeah,
impressive. It really, I was blown away by it. It's a film that I will put in front of a lot of people over time now.
yeah. Talk to me about something you saw on HBO Max, All the Breeds.
Yeah, All That Breathes is this really unbelievable documentary about two brothers known as the Kite Brothers, who spend their entire lives trying to save these birds
Mm,
in Delhi. So the world around them is slowly devolving. and the air quality is pretty bad. So these birds are being affected. So
Mm.
sometimes they're just falling out of the sky. Sometimes they're being attacked by other birds. But the premise of the movie is that you open on them being this duo. I don't know that. So I said they're brothers, but they're known as the Kite Brothers. I'm not sure.
Mm.
They may just be very close friends. But Salik and Muhammad are the two main characters, and then there's Nadim, who is sort of their right hand, who is part of all of this. But
Mhm.
they create like an animal sanctuary in their garage to help these birds. So
Wow.
their main business is making soap and selling soap, but they probably spend 12 hours a day helping birds and 6 hours a day making soap,
It's
is what
like
it feels like.
Fight Club.
Yeah. And it really does feel like Fight Club. These birds are in such bad shape, and they're
Wow.
desperately trying to help these carnivore. So the reason it all starts is as a kid, one of the kites that they're out at an area, and a kite falls to the ground, and they go to take it to a bird sanctuary, and they're turned away because a kite is a carnivorous bird. So they won't take them into the bird sanctuary to help them.
Mm.
But these birds are such a part of like the ecosystem and like the microbiome. At one point they're talking about like the this giant landfill in Delhi, and they're trying to figure out like how much does a kite eat a week, and how big is this landfill. And one of them makes a joke that like if it wasn't for the kites, the landfill would be like a pyramid of trash. It would be like a mountain, and it's not. So the kites are part of what keeps the ecosystem in balance. And without them, like Delhi would be in worse shape than it is. Like
Wow.
it's a fantastic documentary. For me, a documentary is all about like take me to expose me to something I've never seen before, and then make me care about it. Right, like,
Mm.
and this movie does that in spades. It is so much about the relationship of these two men, that all that they give up, their family life, the fact that they could leave Delhi and they won't, because without them, who's going to take care of the kites,
Right.
right? Like, and they're trying to get a grant to create a bird sanctuary. It's just so moving and so harrowing. Like being exposed to sort of what the how bad the infrastructure is in Delhi, how bad the air is in Delhi, yet they persevere. Like they keep saving these birds. And there's a sequence where like they move birds, and you realize they move one bird, and then you realize they move 26 birds, and then they move 74 birds, and then they move 176 birds. They have 176 birds in that garage that they are have nursed back to health, or that they've and like that is one small portion of the kite population. But without them, those 176 birds would be dead. Right? Like, and it's just unbelievable what two men have done with their lives, and how they people would think they were crazy, but in reality they've probably made more of an impact on the ecosystem of Delhi than almost anyone else,
Right.
by keeping these birds alive. It's so moving and beautiful and unbelievable. I'm so glad that they put it on HBO Max. There, I have been really impressed with the access I've had to short documentaries. I've been really frustrated with the full length feature documentaries, and they're just starting to creep out. So the second film I'm going to talk about is Fire of Love, which is the film about the volcanologists.
This is one that's on. This is on HBO Plus here in America, and I'm really interested in this one. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's Disney Plus here in America and Hulu. So it's interesting that it's on both, but it's because it's a National Geographic documentary. So Disney Plus is the home of the National Geographic films in America. It is the story of two volcanologists who met, fall in love, and spend their entire lives uh, studying and being close to volcanoes. They, their entire world is volcanoes, and without one another, they would be alone. Um, they couldn't probably have a relationship with someone who wasn't a volcanologist, because they spend so much time uh, just out amongst these. what they feel like is like sort of the earth at large, and it's and they are alive, they're creatures, and they want to be as close to them as possible. And they talk about it through so many lenses. The movie is all it's all archival footage basically of these two folks. There's no surprise here, and I'm not going to even pull a punch. They die at a volcano eruption,
Wow.
and the footage is sort of close to the end of the film, and it's not really sad. Is the way I
Mm.
would put it. They've had this amazing life together,
You would.
studying something they love, and finding one another and doing it
It's
together.
sounds like it's the way that they would want to go out.
Yes. And I think what's really great is like, it's the story of Katya Croft and Maurice Croft, and they're very different people. And the way they capture, there's a really great framing device where Maurice is constantly about motion and about getting closer and being closer to the action and being right. He wanted to ride like a log flume of lava. He was
Mm.
for years trying to figure out how to do it. And Katya, on the other hand, is capturing photos. So she takes thousands and thousands of photos of volcanoes and the regions around it. But like they get an intimate knowledge of nature in ways that other people never would. There's a really great sequence where like she's holding a chipmunk that's eating like a nut right out of her hand. And like it's not just volcanoes, right? Like they're like one with nature, all nature. And that's amazing to see, like we don't get exposed to that much. I don't spend a lot of time with nature documentaries. This feels like a nature documentary wrapped around a romance movie wrapped around this like scientific documentary. It's really super interesting. I don't know that it's the most compelling documentary I've ever seen. I really was more drawn to All That Breathes, but it sucks because you have to compare things all the time because these are both nominated for Oscars this year.
Uh,
I think this also is beautiful because it does what I want out of a documentary. It exposes me to something new and makes me care about it, right? Like, and I think that is all I ask for when I watch a documentary, and it's very accessible right now. It's on both Hulu and Disney Plus in America, which doesn't happen very often.
right.
So you should, if you have either of those services, or you can steal it from a friend, you should watch this documentary.
Well, you won't be stealing Netflix anytime soon anymore.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
different story.
very silly.
Speaking of documentaries, and movie that I love from my childhood, also on Tubi is where I saw it, but you can also find this on Plex or Pluto TV. Is a documentary called Wolfman's Got Nards, a
Mhm.
documentary about the impact that the 1987 movie The Monster Squad has had on the world. Have you seen The Monster Squad?
I don't. I think so. I may have just
Then
gleaned it from culture.
yeah, if you had to say I think so, I would
I
imagine
think
you
I'm
have.
a little too old for that movie. Is really. I think it may have come out in that weird space where I was already a summer camp and after school counselor, and I just missed it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think if anything, you should, if you owe it to yourself to watch the movie and kind of like send yourself back to 1987 and
Okay.
the 1987 Robbie. The movie itself, this is Shane Black's first movie. He did this before he did Lethal Weapon, although I think Lethal Weapon might have actually come out before this movie. And this was directed by the movie was directed by Fred Decker, who is a good friend of Shane Black's. But the documentary itself is actually directed and written by the one of the kids who starred in the movie. Andre Gower is his name, and he's one of the kids in the movie. Um, but it's a great. It goes step by step through like the inception of the movie, the filming of the movie, the experiences of the cast and creatives, the release of the movie, how it how this movie theatrically tanked and why it tanked and then how it found a resurgence when
On
eight
video, right?
uh Not so much. Well, yes, on video, but really HBO and the beginnings of like the early beginnings of HBO. This is like one of those movies that was on all the time. And it kind of like, it's really great. It shows, but then not only that, then it goes even further into the fact that like Alamo Drafthouse wanted to do like a midnight showing of it and have some of the cast members come, and it like blew up, and then they started doing these like Monster Squad tours around cinemas where like the cast would go and do talkbacks and things. And it goes to show you like how this movie has really, it really captured the imagination of a certain generation. Yes, it's not politically correct at times. Yes, there is some like there's a kid named Horace, and they call him Fat Kid the whole time. So yeah, there's fat shaming in the movie, but then like Horace is one of the iconic uh, characters in it because of his journey, and it's like he's the one, like, spoiler alert, like he's the one that like picks up a 12 gauge shotgun, blows away the gill man, and then everyone's like, "Great job, fat kid!" And then he has one of the iconic lines where he turns to them and he's like, "My name is Horace," and like that's one of those iconic lines. Like the Wolfman gets kicked in the balls, and that's where we get Wolfman and Scott Nards. Horace says that,
Mhm.
and like this movie, before there was a Marvel Cinematic Universe, like this is the movie that brought all the Universal movies together in one movie. Before all that, so there's this movie definitely has a place in theater history, in cinema history.
Yeah.
It's actually taught. They actually interview in the documentary. They interview um, a film studies professor that this is one of the movies he teaches. So it's not always just Citizen Kane, Gone with the Wind, and Silence of the Lambs being taught. Like Monster Squad's one of those is up there. So
That's awesome.
the documentary is really great, and it goes through kind of the journey of the movie. And then in the show notes, you can also the Monster Squad is available if you have Paramount Plus to stream it. If you don't, I think it's not that much if you wanted to actually buy it, or find a VHS copy of it. Damn it, watch it
Yeah.
in like on an old VHS machine,
Yeah,
also known.
and something we haven't talked about, like if you have a local library, your library website likely has the ability for you to log in after you get your library card to a service called Canopy. So there is the ability for you to stream movies using Canopy for free, like up
Wow,
to 9 a month. And Canopy is really impressive. Like some of the stuff that's on there is similar to what's on the Criterion channel. Sometimes it's like stuff that's nowhere else in the world.
cool.
It's impressive. Like Canopy is something that came on my radar probably in the last 6 months.
Mhm.
And I finally set it up and put it on my television. It has a smart app, so I can put it on on my Apple TV Plus. On my Apple TV, it works great. It's unbelievable, and they rotate films, so every month there's new films. But yeah, it's impressive, and this feels like the kind of thing that like you might be able to actually go to your library and get the DVD of, right? Like, and that's something we don't talk about very often is that there are libraries out there that have relatively large media libraries.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Also, check your local used bookstore. Like, you would be
Yes.
surprised at how many DVDs most of these. Like in my local area, there's a store called Second and Charles, and
Mhm.
it is basically like probably 8,000 DVDs, Blu-rays, sort of everywhere, and of
Yeah.
every type, of television shows. Of there's like manga DVDs. It's unbelievable how deep some of these libraries are.
Yeah,
You
and
got to dig,
sometimes
you got to spend some time, but you'd be surprised what you can find.
yeah, it's like treasure hunting. Sometimes you don't know what you're gonna get, and sometimes they don't know what they have.
Yeah,
In regard to like, "Oh my god, this is out of print and it's only $5." But if you, like, went to, like a secondhand like a eBay or something,
yeah.
it'd be, like, ridiculously amount of money, so, yeah.
Totally. Cool. I'm going to jump into the Magic Mike universe. So my first spending of quality time with Magic Mike came this week. I watched all 3 films. So Magic
Wow.
Mike XXL, and our main review of Magic Mike's Last Dance. So I will take a step back and say, like, I went in pretty open minded. I know that Soderbergh directed the first film and was really impressed with the type of film that it was. I think after watching all 3, I have some assessments of Magic Mike and what they were trying to accomplish, or what each movie is in larger part. So I think Magic Mike is an interesting film about how people perceive sex workers and stripping, is part of it, right? Also, it is set in 2012, so during the financial downturn, there's like a story to be told about the financial collapse in America for blue collar workers, is also what's going on. There's a lot of surprisingly subtle themes going on in this movie about male review. I think McConaughey he was really, as much as I don't love the character he's playing, he is should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He did win the Independent Spirit Award for Best Supporting Actor, and he got robbed. He
Mm,
is such a unique voice in this movie, and also the sort of foil to Mike, right? Like, but he gives a heater performance for the amount of time he's on screen. Like, every scene he's a part of, he is absolutely on friggin' fire. And this is like the second film in the reconnaissance, right? Like, this was what was setting up him returning to film. But
mm,
boy, he steals every scene he's in. I absolutely loathe his character, but and he is a big part of why the movie has the lens that it has, which it feels like this movie is very much about. You are the physical incarnation and can manipulate the fantasies of women, right? You are here to play women like puppets. Like, your puppeteering is what it felt like with
mm,
this movie. Whereas the second movie feels much more about like women empowerment, and you are there as the fantasy and the embodiment of their wants and desires. And I think there's a tonal shift from one movie to the other. And I think there's a friendly shift that happens. The first movie feels like we're getting exposed to this world, and it's even a little, you're at odds with the world. There's not a lot of like friendship, even though Magic Mike takes under his wing this young kid. There's still a distance that all these characters have from one another, even though they're like camaraderie backstage and things like that. This movie is sort of not allowing us to be part of the crew, and it feels like the second movie is us and male friendship is and support is an interesting lens, which I don't think is there in the first movie.
well, I think the first movie took itself way too seriously. To be honest, I think uh, the story which they had, I th- I when I remember when I didn't watch this recently, but when I watched, I was like, y'all are taking yourselves way too seriously. Um, or trying to they were trying to make a different movie than what they made, or I don't know the right words to say, but I think the interesting thing about this is, like, it's like Channing Tatum is not necessarily the focal point of the movie, in the sense that what's his name, is it Adam or something like that? Like,
Yeah,
we see the world through Adam's the character of Adam's eyes, which I was like, just it's called Magic Mike, like make it about Magic Mike,
yeah,
and I feel like there was a bit of a, like, there's like this budding romance, I think, that was like, I think was a little forced, and kind of like there wasn't a lot of chemistry between Channing Tatum and
Cody Horn
yeah,
who
there was
plays
like
Mark.
there was not a lot of chemistry there, and it seemed like a very strange relationship. And I feel like there was a lot of potential in this movie, and I think it did very well. But I feel like I think that the reason that, I mean, the the second one is called Magic Mike XXL, and I think that is like perfect title for it, because
Yeah,
they were like, everything that like worked in the first one, we're just gonna like go to the nines with it in the sequel.
yeah.
Um,
before
No.
we leave Magic Mike, I do. There's a couple of things that I think are. It's interesting that you say like they're taking themselves very seriously. I think this film is really. I think people expected this to be a campy film based on the fact that it's called Magic Mike and it's about a male review and a stripper story. But I think Soderbergh and Reed Carolyn, the writer, took this story very seriously, and a lot of it's based on Channing Tatum's real life as a male dancer, and so he has a lot to say about where the story came from. But I think there's some really interesting like aspects of this movie that I don't think anybody really talks about or don't talk about as often. I think Olivia Munn's character of Joanna is super interesting and sort of in a lot of ways is sort of the foil to Magic Mike, right? Like she treats the world as frivolously as she treats his heart as frivolously as the movie wants to treat the women in it. So
Mm.
I think there's an interesting balancing act of having this actress who I have a lot of affection for, who I don't think ever really got a fair shake in a lot of ways, and she's really good in this film as
Mm.
like what she's doing is playing sort of a very empowered, confident woman in a world with an extremely handsome and attractive and confident man, and there's no distance between the two of them. Like their world, they are equals in their control of their bodies, in the way that they see the world, in their sexuality. I was just really impressed. I did not expect that going into this film.
Mm.
And that really impressed me. And I think it gave us a chance. I don't love the story that like as the movie ends and Brooke finally gives in and admits or allows herself to kiss Mike for the first time. It's only after he says he's no longer going to be a stripper.
Mm.
I just think that it's a bad. It's not a great story to tell, right? Like that he has to give up who he is for this woman, and I just maybe I'm taking it too seriously, but I went into this with open eyes because I was like, it's a Soderbergh film, like, and I want to really be open to it as a film, not
Mm.
as just sort of casual viewer. And I think there's a lot in this movie that was better than I was expecting, and I think there's some real it's a slightly better film than I expected going in, and I think for me it's like a 3.5 star film, and it's shot kind of beautifully, and I'm very impressed with what Channing Tatum is able to pull off. Like he looks like a real life GI Joe, which is funny that he eventually became Duke, right? But
Mm.
like he looks like Americana embodied in human form with a baby face, and he does things in this film that are astounding. He can move his bodies in ways that I am constantly flabbergasted by watching this man dance, and all the way to the final film, right? Like, but this film really just showed like a world that I had never seen, and I think the story that is written here is not as straightforward as I think people expected it to be. People expected it to be a light and frivolous film, and I don't know that it was. And I think the second film, as you were talking about, is sort of let's make the film that people thought it was going to be, is what it
Mm.
feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in the in the second one you get it's more like a road trip
Yeah,
vibe, and if I think if Magic Mike the first film was more like an independent film, Magic Mike XXL is definitely the studio version
yeah,
way. You know, I think I think in this one you get more, as far as I recall, you get, because it's a road trip, and you get to focus on like the crew and the characters, and I think that that's the most enjoyable thing for me was with the second one was like, like seeing Kevin Nash and Joe Manganiello
yeah,
and Matt Baumer and things, like just like to get to know those characters a little more, and
yeah,
kind of like let them stretch their legs. And again, like I think in all three of these movies, like the dance sequences are incredible, and like the guys are in incredible shape.
yeah.
But yeah,
I think
I
so. One thing I want to point out in this film is I feel like they transition, right? This film is much more, the first film is about the dancers basically playing the women like fiddles. Whereas in this film, if you think about it, it's much more the story of like Jada Pinkett Smith's character is a singular performance for her. She is powerful, she's strong, she owns like she is 5'4" of just like empowered woman and confident and like what she brings to the table is really amazing with all this unbelievable stuff going on around her. You can't take your eyes off of her. And I feel like as Rome, she's unbelievable. I think it. I feel like I've seen her in a lot of things. This is the first time I was like, that woman just stole scenes away from some of the most amazing dancers I've ever seen. I was really impressed with her in this film, and I think it is part of what I'm talking about, where it's about female empowerment. Right? She creates this mansion where it is where women can go to have their fantasies fulfilled, and it's all about empowering these women to be like to feel confident and to have what they want given to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the idea that like Twitch, who's in this as one of the dancers, he just passed away, I think last year. He was from So You Think You Can Dance and things like that. And he's the one that does the mirror sequence with Channing Tatum at the end. And I also think this is an interesting movie because Channing Tatum may be the lead of this film, but he's constantly giving up the screen to other people, right? The Joe Manganiello sequence that takes place in the gas station mini mart is unbelievable. It's
Mm-hmm.
about like supporting your friend, wanting him to find who he is, right? And about again, right, like making this woman smile. It's not about anything else. It's about Joe being Joe, right? Like or Big Dick Willie or whatever his name is, or Big Dick
Mm-hmm.
Ricky, like finding why he wants to do this again, right? Like not just about making money, but about like being himself. And I think there's just a lot of that in this movie that I wasn't expecting. So again, like maybe again, I'm reading too much into this film, but I think this is a solid 3-star film in my opinion. It's got some goofiness. You've got Gabriel Iglesias getting in it, you know, crashing the truck and being left behind, right? Like there's all this silly aspects where their friends just leave their buddy in the hospital because they got to keep going on to this. They get there and they haven't registered, right? Like it's just silly, you know. But overall, I came away from this film just really enjoying it and seeing Donald Glover sort of pre Childish Gambino is be Childish Gambino is unreal, right? Like and in that movie in that movie he doesn't really dance very much, but you get a different aspect of fulfilling women's fantasies with him, right? Like he's listening to their what they're asking for. He's giving them his attention, right? He's showering praise upon them. It's interesting the choices that were made in this film that I think are different than Magic Mike.
It
So again, a different type of film again than even I was expecting going into it. You know,
isn't Michael Stratham in this
he
movie?
is, yes,
He's like super. He's like ripped as all fuck in this movie.
he is,
Pardon my
and he can
pardon my
dance.
French there. Yeah,
Like, yeah, he
yeah.
plays Augustus.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed this one better than the previous one. But I'm
I think
also not.
you get the characters being a little bit more themselves, right? Like and a
Mm,
little bit goofier. Like you get, you know, Ken Matt Bomer's character sort of being more touchy-feely and of the universe. And you get like Adam Rodriguez's character embracing Tito, embracing that he wants to be like he wants to make a yogurt truck. Like it's
yeah.
just fun to get these characters to have like different attributes associated with them than just their like rock hard abs and their ability to dance, right? Like
Mm.
it's cute. There's a lot of it that I find really amusing.
And I guess that leads us up to our main review,
Here we
which is
go. It's
Magic
happening.
Magic Mike's Last Dance, which just came out. Was it? Did it come out like last? It came out like last week, I think.
It was this. Yeah, this is its opening weekend.
Yeah.
As of now, it has topped the weekend charts. It made $8.2 million.
Look at that.
It kicked out Knock at the Cabin and 80 for Brady have both slipped, with Avatar: The Way of Water sliding back into number two, and Titanic back in the theaters making $6.4 million on its 25th anniversary release.
Which makes Titanic the number 2 highest grossing movie of all time.
Yeah,
Oh, so now James Cameron has done it. He has the top 3 highest grossing movies of all time. Look at that.
I just want like a James Cameron Avatar, yelling Khan, but it's like Cameron because he like
Mm,
keeps knocking himself out of these slots.
yeah.
But yeah, he's going unbelievable. The staying power of his films. Sean Fennessy always jokes like you can't sleep on Big Jim, right? Like
Mhm.
he makes films that people want to see and that have the ability to bring in everyone. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
So Magic Mike's Last Dance. Steven Soderbergh has returned in directing. This is also Reed Carolyn, maybe how you say the last name.
Uh-huh.
Is So they've written all three of these films.
Yep.
Channing Tatum stars, and now we have Selma Hayek joining the cast. And I really, I'll say off the bat, I enjoyed this movie. I went with my wife; she enjoyed this movie as well. Um, uh, I feel like this movie may have the lightest of storylines. I think the plot is a little thin in this one, but I think what it makes up for it in the you don't see a lot of sensuality on the big screen anymore, and I think that this is one of the most sensual movies I've seen in a long time. And I think that the dancing and the performances are all really incredible.
Yep.
Um, and this is 100%, in my opinion, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but this is definitely a commercial for the Magic Mike Las Vegas show that's been going on quite successfully
Yep.
for a couple years now. Um, uh, you have you've got if I could just give the plot really quickly,
Yeah.
you know, this is post-pandemic, so in I believe in Magic Mike XXL, like, and maybe even in the first one, like Channing Tatum's character Mike wants to build furniture, and by the end of the second one, I believe he's got a furniture business,
Mhm.
but the pandemic has happened, and he could not afford to keep that afloat, so he has been reverting back to like bartending and all these other odd jobs, but not dancing. And then I thought the interesting thing was he's bartending at a fundraiser, and he meets the girl from the first movie where
Yeah.
he uh, was he was a cop stripper
Yep.
at a bachelorette party, and that girl happens to work for the person running the fundraiser.
I
Who
think
is
that scene is written so well. It's just
mm,
like, did you go to state? And he's
yeah,
like, no. And
yeah,
she's like, oh, you were a cop.
yeah, yeah,
And he's like, huh. Like there's a moment where he's just like, oh, where is this gonna go? Like this can't go well.
yeah.
And she's standing with her significant other, and he's like, yeah.
Hmm.
And her significant other's like, did you give her a ticket? And he's like, I think I let you off with a warning, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. Right? Like there's some there the charm of Channing Tatum is just oozing out of the scene. Like
yeah,
him having to sort of navigate the world and not blow up her spot and her not blowing up his spot is really cute.
yeah. So that girl works for Selma Hayek, and she's like, "Yo, I know you're going through a divorce right now, and that's why you're here in Miami. You should have this guy give you a dance." So that's kind of the spark of the movie.
Yep.
He gives her an incredible dance, and they kind of fall for each other in a way, and he kind of becomes her muse, and then she sweeps him off to London
Yep.
to put together an incredible theatrical experience,
Mhm.
and it kind of goes from there. And what you have is they put together kind of from what I've seen of the Vegas show, they kind of put together the Vegas show on film. Um, and Gene Kelly always said like the proper way to film dance is to never to never zoom in on the feet or the body. Always, show the full body. And I think they did that a lot in this. I think the dancing is really incredible, and god damn, there is a number that takes place where it's raining on stage, and this is actually, I think, in the Vegas version, the stage show, and it's just incredibly sensual, sexy,
Yes.
and it's amazing.
It
I
is
think
the scene from all three movies, in my opinion. It is the
mm,
best dance sequence, and it has nothing to do with stripping in any way, shape, or form. Right?
Mm.
It is using the moves of a stripper and a male dancer to tell a story through dance. It is interpretive dance with a different lens in a lot of ways, and it's a combination of ballet. It's a combination of like hip hop and dancing like stripper dancing. It tells a story. I wish it didn't have flashbacks throughout the middle of it because I felt like it was a little heavy-handed. But
Mm.
I was so impressed with this scene. I said to my wife, like, this has the sexiest dance scene in any film of all three of these, maybe any film I've ever seen. And
Mm.
then secondarily, it is not with Salma Hayek. um,
Sure.
and that is not what you'd expect going in with the cast that you see, right? Like the storytelling that they use is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think the trailer for this movie was very misleading, and I was like a little like groany, if that's the
Mhm.
right word, like going into this movie because the trailer sets the movie up as if you're supposed to assume that he has to choose between an older woman and a younger woman,
Right.
but with the way that they cut some dialogue together and the way that they show uh, people in the trailer. But that is not the case in this movie, and I actually thought that was really refreshing.
Yeah.
It was a budding relationship between Selma Hayek and Channing Tatum. More power to them for showing a strong, a strong woman who is older than the male lead as well. And yeah, like my wife really enjoyed like she didn't have she didn't like I mean I'm sure she enjoyed all the dancing as much as I did, maybe more so, who knows, whatever. But um she really appreciated like the female empowerment feel of this movie. Um there are some theatrical logic that you can't you have to just forget. You're like, there's no way that they cleared that stage of all that water for
Yeah.
you on to do like another dance number.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those kind of nitpicky things. Um, but besides that, I think my wife really the only thing that my wife like really was like that stupid is they bring so Selma Hayek has a daughter and they bring her to this performance.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like in a I think they meant it in like a maybe a tongue in cheek kind of way, but they cover her eyes. And they like there's a shot of them covering her eyes, like just putting their hand in front of her face a little too long in my opinion. I thought it was annoying because you knew what you were bringing her to in a
Right.
sense, or maybe Selma Hayek didn't, but the girl knew what she was getting into. And if this is about like empowering this young girl to see sexuality in a way and all this other stuff, like why have that in there?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
but
honestly, I think there's little things in the script that could have made this better, right? Like if the butler put his hand over her eyes and Salma Hayek said like no, right?
sure,
Like that
yeah,
would have and I feel like the original cast gets short shrift. They literally have one and a half minute Zoom call with the original cast, and part of it is to apologize for losing some. They invested in his business. I think again, I'm rewriting this film. If Magic Mike LLC is one of the producers of the show, and the show makes money, if he made all of the original cast members part owner of Magic Mike LLC, right? You get a chance to give them back their like you could have connected the dots, right? Like
oh, fair enough.
it now gives you the ability to say the show went out on a tour, it's making money, it's in Vegas, right? So you get a chance at the end for all the guys to show up dressed nicely and say they're producing this show, right? Like I
Mm.
think there's just a little bit missing to close the loop on the original cast. If
Well,
you're not going to bring them into the film,
I think, well, in my opinion, it's not just the original cast. I think the movie ends before the ending.
Yeah,
Um, and I understand that they're like, well, you're allowed to come up with your own ending.
yeah,
Um, it's like right after the poor performance, it's just like the movie's over,
yeah,
and you know the ramifications of what this performance leads. We've been told what those ramifications can be, but you could also write your own ending, and I understand why to do that. Um, but like, yeah, there could have been an epilogue to this movie where like you wrap up everything in a nice little bow. It's like the show is successful, it keeps running. She doesn't get the, she doesn't get the theater taken away from her. She gets to keep her money,
Right.
or epilogue, they're back in Miami and she's living happily without all her money with Channing,
Right.
and they have a successful furniture business or something. But yeah, it's definitely big spoiler alert if you're still listening. Yeah, it doesn't tell you what the ending of the movie of the story is.
Right.
You don't know where Mike really ends up. It's up to you to interpret it. So maybe that's fun. I don't know.
Okay, so I think we're done with the review. I want to make you laugh because I go to this movie. I have originally scheduled myself to sit in the middle seat in the front row
Did you have
of the second
to
section.
pay $2 extra for that now if you went to AMC?
I was AMC,
Yeah.
and then I had to cancel my ticket and move to another seat because 3 people sat directly next to me with no one else around.
What?
And I walk in, and it is 3 older women,
Oh
probably.
man.
Right. I'm very sad that I canceled my ticket. It probably would have been more fun to sit next to them.
Yeah.
But what's amazing
What if you
is,
just started getting up and dancing for them?
oh my god! But I was laughing because I'm like, first of all, there's only like 8 tickets sold in this whole theater. Why do you have to sit next to me?
Yeah.
Right? That's how I feel. Like
Well, it's because you know how to choose the best seats. That's why,
it's
Robbie.
true. So I of course notice these 3 ladies when I come into the theater, and I come in and the first trailer is playing, and it's Champions, which is a cute film, right?
Yeah,
Woody Harrelson
it's
film.
cute.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. I will see it. It'll be adorable. Second trailer comes up, and it is Renfield, but it's the red band
Oh,
version of Redfield.
okay.
So because this is an R-rated film, the trailers are chaotic. So that's step one. The next trailer is Scream.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The next trailer is Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, wow.
Not the Red Band trailer, thankfully, because I can't take that Red Band trailer. I watched it once. I am never going to see that movie. But the final trailer was Barbie. And I just wanted to laugh at the like chaos that having an R-rated adult movie targeted mostly towards adults creates. Because there's so few R-rated movies that come out that are targeted towards adults and not like 20 somethings that are, and most of them are horror films.
Right.
The trailer choices are just it's like a chaos machine. Like I can only imagine these poor 3 ladies sitting there watching the trailer to Evil Dead Rise because they were like probably in their late 60s, and I'm sure that movie is not. I'm making assumptions, but I do not think that is a movie they're probably going to see in the theater. But it just made me laugh so hard because it was literally going from Champions to a Red Band trailer of Renfield to Scream to Evil Dead Rise to Barbie. Like,
Amazing.
what maniac like put together this trailer package?
Hey, hold up. Is Barbie R?
No, but
Okay.
I think it's going to be PG-13.
Yeah.
But just what lunatic did this? Like, who thought this was a good idea?
Well, maybe they're big horror fans. You never know.
Maybe I just couldn't stop laughing because I'm like sitting there and I'm like just getting situated in the theater and I'm like, yeah, Champions, of course. And then I'm like, all right, like I've seen the Renfield trailer, like
Yeah.
it's fine.
I would have totally sat next to them and
Yeah, I screwed up. But then going to Scream and I'm like, all right, I've seen this trailer. There's not a lot going on here. And then it was like Evil Dead Rise, and I'm like, whoa, hold on.
I mean that's about motherhood, so
It is. Yeah, I just figured you'd get a kick out of that because my experience was so funny. Just thinking about like, I could not fathom how this happened, and I was just cringing on behalf of everyone else because it was like me and mostly there was like 2 couples and these 3 ladies and one other lone person. And I was just like, this just feels so weird. And I went to an early showing. I went to like the 11:50. So it's like the matinee showing on a Sunday. Like it was just so bizarre. And I was laughing the whole time. I was like, God, I just walked into a chaos vortex. I don't know how this happened.
Well, yeah, all those trailers on a Sunday afternoon is pretty intense anyway.
Yeah.
For anybody.
Yeah. So this has been super fun. I'm glad I finally dove into the Magic Mike world. One last note.
By the way, you should if you enjoyed yourself, Robbie, You should check up the early Step Up movies. They're actually quite good.
That's cool. I
He
heard that was
started,
sort of how he broke into the scene.
yeah.
I just want to note the choice to put that man in a fitted black suit with just the crisp white button down, leaning against the silver cloud.
Mm.
Good lord, good choice. Like he has grown into such a distinguished looking man. He's always been good looking, but like,
Oh, while we're talking about it, didn't you think that he was like hiding whoppers or like gumballs in his cheeks at some points? Like there were two scenes
uh huh.
where I was like, were you supposed to be eating in this scene and they cut it because it looks like you're chipmunking right now.
Well, that's funny.
Um, he also just has a very distinguished jawline. He's a very handsome man,
Yeah.
and I think he doesn't take himself very seriously, which I really appreciate.
Well, and
Um,
Salma Hayek looks fantastic, and is just
yeah,
such a presence. Like the scenes between the two of them, I don't know that they have the greatest chemistry, but none of it feels forced. None of it feels like it couldn't happen. Like he feels lucky to be in her presence. She feels lucky to be like. There's a little bit of back. Like I
yeah,
really liked. It is not my favorite romantic chemistry, but their personal chemistry with one another works really well for
yeah.
what they're trying to accomplish. Like
Like,
I
yes, 100%. Like,
yeah
that's the relationship they were trying to create, where it was like, "I think I love you, but I'm not gonna tell you I love you, but this is a business relationship,
yeah
this is an emotional relationship." Yeah, like, there's a lot of layers going on there, and I think that they achieved that really well.
yeah.
There's a scene where she's supposedly a little tipsy, and they promised that they would not kiss or be physical, and she starts to get physical. I really enjoyed that scene. I was like, she kind of feels like she's acting like
Yeah.
she's actually drunk. Um, but it was a very honest scene, and I think that yeah, everyone in this movie looks like they're having a really good time.
Oh yeah. So again, if I'm going to continue, so this is just a declining series for me. I think it was 3.5 stars, 3 stars. This is like 3-ish stars, maybe not without the heart. Like I think I would have liked a little bit more. I think it's like you said, the premise, the plot of the movie is very thin.
Yeah,
Um,
well,
and,
yeah,
and I feel like
commercial.
even the second movie had a lot. It had a much more complicated script than I was expecting, and kept me going. Right, like so. I think there's a
Mhm.
missing piece in this movie, and I don't think it's the acting. I think it's shot beautifully. I think the dancing is beautiful. I just wish there was a little bit more in this script because I think that they're telling a story that isn't interesting, and I think the other two had a lot more to tell. Right, like whereas
Right,
this is much more about the dance sequences themselves, which I think is what a lot of people were sad about in the first two. Is this movie gave you more of the dance, but
right,
what I wanted was just a little bit more story, right?
right.
Like, and honestly, it's not bad. Like, it's the kind of movie when it comes on streaming, Amy and I will sit down and watch it because she didn't get a chance to go to see it with me, and she's like, "Should we go see it in the theater?" I'm like, "We can. Like, I'll go see it again. It's fine." But I think the reality is like this is a really fun like it's Thursday night and we need to like decompress kind of film. Like, whereas like I keep holding on to Hustlers because I feel like it's a heavier film. Like I bought it on 4K Blu-ray and I'm
Mm.
excited to watch that. Like as an example of like something I've been but when this hits streaming, we'll watch it the day it hits probably, right? Like
Yeah, sure. Like if I had
it's
to,
light and airy.
like, there's no cynicism in this movie.
Right.
Hustlers is a bit cynical,
Right.
or
And I hear that,
like,
and that's one of the reasons why like it's waiting in a queue of like I have the ability to take on a more serious film and really sort of live with it. I think that's
mm,
what I'm interested in that movie is like I really want to spend like I want to be in the right headspace. I want to have the time to actually dedicate to it and really feel that movie because I feel like there's a lot more going on in that film than I think it got credit for or it was originally expected to have. And I think that's why I'm really excited. I got a chance to spend time with these movies this week, right? Like I didn't just go in and second screen away Magic Mike and Magic Mike XXL. I
mhm.
really spent some time with them, like, and talked
Yeah,
about them with my wife. And like, I'm excited to get a chance to dig in on these movies with you because I think there's a lot more going on here than people gave them credit for,
yeah,
which is why I wanted a little bit more out of this movie.
right on. Yeah, but I think like if this is, I think this, I mean, as the title goes, this may be the very last one that Channing Tatum does. Like, I wonder if he even wanted to do this movie.
Yeah.
Um, but like, but again, it's like he is invested in the Magic Mike franchise as like he is the one of the producers on the Vegas show, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but like it tried to come to Broadway many years ago, and it tried many times to come to Broadway, and I don't think it's ever going to come to Broadway. But some things don't have to come to Broadway.
Yeah.
They're very successful in Vegas or in different iterations. But
I think some industrious theater producer could bring it to the off Broadway space, and it would probably do really well in New York. Would be my guess.
or it just needs to be like, I mean, just make it a Chippendales show. And I'm not trying to shit on. That sounds like I'm shitting on it, but I'm like, no, just make a male review.
Yeah.
More power to them. It's yeah, like whatever it is. It's
If you're still here, John and I are going to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania next week. I'm excited to dig into that film. I've heard very mixed things. I've heard some people really enjoy it. I hear others that are not as high on it. I am excited to see Jonathan Majors embodying this character, right? Like, yeah. I can't wait for Creed 3. I don't. Again, I'm hearing he is the rock star in that film.
Dude, this is the decade of Jonathan Majors, in my opinion.
God.
Like, whatever he does for the next 10 years is just gonna be amazing.
Dude, I saw him in Magazine Dreams. That's a film I don't think you got to see, right?
Oh, I did.
Oh yeah,
we talked about it.
I mean, right? I think he's going to get Oscar nominated, would be my guess for that film. But I think with all of this other love and all this other affection for all the roles he's taking on, and also just the fact that he seems like a good human who doesn't take himself very seriously. Like I think his awards run could be really interesting. I think interviews will be chaotic because he's not like the most chatty guy, but he also just doesn't answer questions, I think, the way people expect. Like when I saw him in some of the Q&A after Magazine Dreams, he just works. He just shows up, does his job. He doesn't like want to talk about it. It doesn't feel like. I'm really interested to see what he pulls off, but I'm excited to see that movie. I'm interested to see whether or not they pull it off. But from what I hear, there are 2 post-credit scenes, and that is almost as important as the film.
Yeah. The rumors I've heard are very interesting.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Feige flubbed up he gave a spoiler, and I can't believe Kevin Feige gave almost spoiler.
Well, it hasn't been spoiled for me, so shut up. It's been really fun to chat with you. Thank you for helping me navigate the world of Magic Mike and giving me a reason, because I probably wouldn't have put this on my radar. And I feel I feel like I have a lot more to think about with those films than I ever expected to. So it's partially your fault. So this is a John's fault that went in the right direction.
And on that note, guys, thanks for listening. Like we said in the beginning of the podcast, if you could subscribe, review, all those things. Also, again, like us on social media. We always post updates on when we post new content. It's usually on Monday for your commute. And if you're listening to this while you're commuting, I hope you got to your destination safely.
And I hope your commute wasn't as long as our podcast. Talk to you next week. Thank you so much, John.
All right, take care. Bye now.
Bye. This has been a Geek on Film podcast. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.